affirmation we just did very much reflects our topic this morning, which is light and joy are our divine birthright. In the Festival of Light, Swami Kriyananda reminds us of our true identity. O children of light, he says, forsake the darkness. Know that forever you and he are one. Swamiji also wrote, a person in ill health says, I am ill. Few people say, I'm well. It's my body that's suffering. People with low income say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outwardly I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Also morally, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses, with their mistakes, not with the power of the soul. The great masters, however, emphasize our divine potential. They encourage us. They address us as children of light. The Bible says that our true home is the light of heaven. No man has ascended to heaven, it tells us, but he that came down from heaven. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness and not to dwell on our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And Lord Krishna states in the Gita, seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts. But those who have not purified their hearts and lack discipline, they see him not. Recently in our book study group on Wednesdays, we read the wonderful story of Yogananda ji, where he is outdoors listening to a chant, and he's just swaying back and forth in ecstasy, in time with the music. And he said to the disciples, he said, I see all of you as images of light. Everywhere, these trees, bushes, the grass you are standing on, all are made of that light. You have no idea how beautiful everything is. And we want to feel just how beautiful everything really is. And we want to live in that light. And it may be easier than we might imagine. We need to meditate, think positively, to affirm and identify with that light and joy, identify with our goal, with our divine potential. Choose that instead of our limitations. The more we simply dwell in inner peace, the more attachments will fall away by themselves. Formal education is about learning. Yoga is about unlearning. unlearning the thoughts and the attitudes that hold us back. Swami Satchidananda, the disciple of Swami Shivananda, was asked once, "Are you a Hindu?" And he replied, "As a yogi, I'm an undo." That is, we need to undo, we need to unlearn the false sense of limitations and self-definitions. There's the story of the sculptor who was asked how he created a sculpture of an elephant. And he said, "I simply took the block of stone and removed everything that was not the elephant." And so we want to remove everything that is not our real, true self. We remove that sense also of false humility that makes us identify with our mistakes, that makes us forget. There was the story that we've told of the saint who visits the temple, famous for a carved stone deity that was beautiful. And this saint comes and he starts talking to the stones of the temple. And the first stone he talks to explains how a sculptor came, and that the stone was offended that the sculptor wanted to take his chisel and cut the stone. And the saint said to the stone that you had the opportunity, had you just been willing to undergo temporary pain, you could have become that deity on the altar. Instead, here you are, one of the paving stones. And the second stone said that that stone was willing to be cut a little bit, but not too much. And that stone became part of the door frame. And then the third stone saw that the sculptor was divinely inspired, and he trusted the sculptor and said, "Take away everything that is not my true potential. Take away, doesn't matter how many blows it takes. Make me into what I am meant to become. Transform me." And that's what we would like, is to allow God, to allow Guru to come in and transform us from negative to positive, to transform fear to confidence, and transform attachment to freedom. And feeling that I am a child of the light gives me that motivation that I need. It gives me the confidence to keep on trying, to have this transformation, this change. And it gives me the power. As Swamiji said, within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. And Guruji said, don't ask, when will I find God? Rather, if you want to know God, live in the thought that you have Him completely, right now, already. Thank you.
Swami Kriyananda has written many songs. You probably know that. One of the songs that he's written you may not have heard here in India because we do not sing it. I don't know that we've sung it ever here. It's called Channels. And it's a beautiful song about the various manifestations that God has created on the planet and how beautiful they are. And he talks about first, birds sing of freedom as they soar lightly on the air. And what a beautiful example birds can give each of us. And Swami's showing us the qualities that all the different ways that God can manifest and teach us lessons. Trees, standing firm, hold the secret of inner power. Stars, send a message of light through eternity. Flowers, stay fragrant, though pressed to the ground. Mountains, hint at higher worlds unseen. So all these beautiful manifestations of nature express so naturally what they truly are. And then we have to ask ourselves as humans, as souls, as manifestations of the divine, are we also expressing naturally who we truly are? Because the scriptures say, you are gods. The scriptures say, aham saha, I am he, I am infinite spirit. The scriptures say, tatvamasi. The scriptures say, aham brahm ashmi. You know, in the Festival of Light, Swamiji says that we are waves on the infinite sea. Master says, from joy I came, for joy I live. In sacred joy I melt again. He wrote the poem Samadhi that Chika and many others are memorizing right now. It's so inspiring. He said to memorize that poem because that state of consciousness, that infinite eternal reality is who you really are. And if you memorize it, those phrases, those visions will come to you throughout the day, and it will just be a reminder of naturally who we are as God's manifestation. And Swami Kriyananda in the Festival of Light also, he talks about the analogy of the little bird that the parents send out into the world to learn lessons, like God sent the soul out to be manifested and to learn lessons. And in this festival, the parents say, gain strength and wisdom, and what you acquire, share with others, for you are a part of all that is. Such a beautiful statement of how God sent us out to just gain wisdom and share with all our brothers and sisters. But then the soul got attached to its little egoic self and said, you know, how foolish I would be to share what I have with anyone. What is wisdom if not to keep what I have for myself? So we, like that bird, have sort of gone against God's wishes for us, and we forget who we are, and we try to cling things to the ego, to the self, because we have forgotten who we really are. Sri Yukteswar talks about humanity having spiritual amnesia. You know, Maya is so strong, so very strong. And as material beings, as these bodies, Maya has convinced us that our separate self is who we really are. And the way that, unless we're on a very serious spiritual path and meditating, almost everyone else on the planet is just experiencing their life, their reality, as they can perceive it through the five senses. And this makes them extremely insecure. That makes the ego king, the soul, non-existent, perhaps in their consciousness. And what does the ego see? Separation everywhere. The ego is insecure, afraid, judgmental, selfish. Because if this little body is all I am, then I'm constantly in fear that something will happen to it, or I won't have enough, or I won't have enough to eat. And so we constantly try to control others, judge others. And as individuals, this is how it manifests. But as humanity, it manifests much worse than that. As national prejudice, greed, corporate greed, inequality, injustice, racism, bigotry, on and on. Here's a quote by Yogananda ji that I think can apply very well to these times. He says, when materiality predominates in man's consciousness, there is an emission of subtle negative rays. Their cumulative power disturb the electrical balance of nature. The sudden cataclysms that occur, creating havoc and mass injury, are not acts of God. Such disasters result from the thoughts and actions of man. Whatever the world's vibratory balance, wherever the world's vibratory balance is disturbed by an accumulation of harmful vibrations, the result of man's wrong thinking and wrongdoing, you will see devastation. So this is when materiality predominates in man's consciousness, matter consciousness. So what are we? Are we material beings creating this havoc on the planet? Or are we sons and daughters of God, perfect? You know, we have to understand for ourselves, what is our greater reality? And those of us coming to satsang, those of us following the teachings of self-realization, we understand that we have a much greater reality. But are we living that on a day-to-day basis? You know, we have this battle always flowing within us. Like Yogananda ji told us, the battle between matter and spirit, between ego and our soul nature. You know, what are we going to let predominate in any moment, in any day? You know, we say that we want to be transformed, and yet we're pretty perhaps comfortable the way we are. The one advantage of this illness that's spreading around the world is that it's giving people time to stop and think, what is my life really about? Who am I really? Am I this poor, weak, insecure flesh and bones? Or am I infinite spirit? And those of us that have dived deep into meditation and stillness during this time are starting to experience the joy and light of our true reality. There's a story about God coming to a little boy and saying, if you can be whatever you'd like to be, I will give that to you. I will make you that. But you have to eat this plate of bitter gourd first. And the child says, I think I would have to say, no, thank you, God. And we think, oh, what a silly child. But what are our likes and dislikes? What's keeping us bound? Are we so comfortable with sort of being half asleep? Or are we willing to put out the energy? Are we willing to put out the energy that like was in the affirmation? And go for self-transformation, go for self-realization. Swami Kriyananda talks about a story of, you know, a bus on a road in the mountain that gets stuck in a ditch, and the driver tells all the passengers to get out and push so that the bus can come out of the ditch. And 15 minutes later, the driver comes out wondering why it hasn't moved yet. But he realizes that half of the people are pushing on one side of the bus, and the other half of the people are pushing on the other side of the bus. And it's an analogy for what is our energy? Where is our energy going? Do we really want to put it all towards positive change, towards getting control of our thoughts, our consciousness, our energy, and bringing it forward towards who we really are? Or is half of us saying, no, I really don't want to put out the energy, and we're so comfortable here at home, and all the people I know aren't putting out that much energy. Why should I put out that much energy? And so it's hard for us to transform when we don't have our thoughts, our aspirations, our energy, our attitudes all going in one direction. When we think of, we may have like 60,000 thoughts a day. What are those thoughts? Are they, I am a child of the infinite. I am a child of light. I am one with joy. I come from joy. I live for joy. Are these our thoughts? Or is it, I didn't do that very well. I'm not really a good person. I made that mistake, or you made that mistake, and you're not a very good person. How many thoughts drag us down when we want them to be aspiring upward? That's why the masters give us affirmations. That's why they give us japa. Grab control of our mind. Try to take the momentum away from Maya, who has us so fooled. Meditation. The masters come. Meditate. Get still. Bring your energy inside. You know, if we disconnect the sense telephones, as Yogananda said, Maya has a hard time keeping her grips on us. If we start to move away from the senses and bring our energy to our center. And then we can direct that energy towards God through prayer, through devotion. You know, Master talked about a cylinder of air. You think of scuba divers, and they have these tanks of oxygen. Well, they need to compress a lot of air into a very small container. And if you break that tank of oxygen, what will happen? That oxygen will expand out into infinity. So we need to break that bottle, that tank that holds us in the self-limitations that we impose on ourselves, that Maya fools us, deludes us into thinking that we're just this small little bottle and we have to stay contained. But we can break out. One of the qualities of light is that unless we hem it in, it will continue to expand into infinity. Look at the pictures that we received from the Hubble telescope. Light, billions and billions and billions of years old. Eternal light. We are one with that light. There's a story that Master tells of the baby lion cub that ends up getting adopted by a flock of sheep when it's very young, and it grows up thinking it's a sheep. And it baws like a sheep, and it's afraid of things like a sheep, and always stays together in the flock very tight. And one day, a real lion, a different lion, comes because it's hungry, and it sees this flock of sheep, and all the sheep go running away in terror. And the little lion, the lion that's part of the sheep flock, runs away also. And the lion in pursuit says, "What is this lion in the middle of the sheep running away?" So he runs ahead, he catches the lion and says, "What are you doing running away?" And the little lion, and he wasn't little, actually, the lion had grown up. And the lion said, "No, please, I'm small, don't eat me, don't eat me." And the new lion said, "What are you talking about? You're a lion, you're just like me." "No, I'm not, I'm a sheep, please don't eat me, I'm so afraid." And so the new lion drags the sheep lion to a pond that's very still and says, "Look at your reflection in this pond." And the sheep lion looked into the pond and realized that he looked just like the other lion. And he says, "Wake up, you think you're a sheep, and you're not, you're a lion." And, you know, and the new lion was batting the head of the sheep lion, just trying to wake him up. And so finally the sheep lion roared like the other lion, and then he realized he was a lion. And that's what the Guru does. He comes to us. He just like slaps us around a little bit and says, "Wake up." Yogananda Ji's chant that says, "Wake, wake, yet my saint, wake up." And that's what the Gurus do. And he shows us what to do when we do wake up. You know, he tells us, get a hold of your energy, still your thoughts, still your mind, experience light, experience joy within you. You will find all the power, all the prosperity, all the love, the light that you've been seeking all this time. You'll just find it within yourself. Yogananda Ji also says, only spiritual consciousness, realization of God's presence in oneself and in every other living being can save the world. Begin with yourself. There is no time to waste. It is your duty to do your part to bring God's kingdom on earth. And Swami Kriyananda ends near the very end of the Festival of Light, says, Lord, we offer up the little light that is in us into thy blazing light of infinity. Grant us the grace to know thee and make us ever increasingly pure channels of thy love to all. We have to remember who we are, because it's only in that experience of love, of light, of joy that is within us, that is us, that we will be able to channel it to other people, that we will be able to change the consciousness of the planet. As we can see, the planet really needs our love, our light, our joy. And we can help others by being examples of that light, of that joy, of that love to all. Joy to you.